I destroyed my wife's life methodically, and she never saw it coming. That's not something a man admits easily, especially not a man like me. 42 years old, calloused hands from 20 years in logistics, the kind of guy who fixes his own truck and never missed a single one of his kids' games. But here I am, sitting in what used to be our living room, and I need to tell someone how Clara's perfect world came crashing down. We'd been together 19 years. Clara was the sharp one, the corporate climber who could dissect a quarterly report the way I could diagnose an engine problem. She thrived on boardroom politics while I kept the real world running, making sure products got from point A to point B, managing drivers who'd rather argue than deliver, solving problems that couldn't be fixed with a PowerPoint presentation. For years, we balanced each other. She'd come home from her glass tower downtown, kick off her heels, and I'd pour her a glass of wine while she vented about office politics. I'd tell her about supply chain disasters and union negotiations, and she'd listen with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she understood more about my world than her colleagues would ever guess. But something shifted about 3 years ago. Subtle at first. The kind of changes you notice in retrospect, like watching rust slowly eat through metal. One Thursday night, she mentioned her company's upcoming gala, then quickly added, "You wouldn't really fit in. It's all corporate types. You'd be bored." I reminded her, "I've attended those events before. Remember the Christmas party 2 years ago?" She waved dismissively. "That was different. This is more exclusive." Her phone became a fortress. Face down, always. A passcode appeared where there'd never been one. She'd light up reading texts, fingers flying across the screen with an energy I hadn't seen in years. Then I'd walk in, and the phone would disappear into her pocket, her smile evaporating like morning dew. The laughter hurt most. Clara had this specific laugh for genuine joy, unguarded, almost musical. It used to fill our house when we'd joke over dinner or watch old comedies on Sunday nights. Now that laugh belonged to someone else, someone on the other end of those late-night calls she'd take in her home office with the door locked. 3 weeks ago, everything crystallized into painful clarity. I'd come home early from a canceled delivery run, walking into our kitchen to find Clara hunched over her phone, whispering urgently. Her whole body was animated in a way I hadn't seen in months, not with me anyway. She was saying, I know. He won't be home until late. We can—" She saw me. The blood drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. "It's just work," she snapped, recovering with surprising venom. "Don't be so paranoid." I kept my voice level. "Who's working this late?" "My boss needs the Singapore reports by morning. You know how demanding he is." But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. They darted to the phone, to the door, anywhere but my face. Her voice carried a sharp edge of guilt, dressed up as anger, the sound of someone caught. That night, I lay beside her in our king-sized bed, listening to her measured breathing, wondering if she was really asleep or just pretending. My mind churned through every late meeting, every weekend conference, every night she'd been too tired to talk, too stressed to connect. I could have confronted her then, could have demanded answers, started the inevitable fight that would end with either truth or more elaborate lies. But I knew Clara. She was brilliant at corporate warfare, at spinning narratives, at making others doubt their own perceptions. If I was going to do this, I needed ammunition she couldn't deflect. That's when I decided to hire someone who could give me answers Clara never would. The private investigator's office sat above a dry cleaner in a strip mall, exactly the kind of place Clara would never notice. Brandon Keller was a former cop, 15 years on the force before going private. He had the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too many marriages implode. "I need the truth," I told him, sliding Clara's photo across his cluttered desk. "Whatever it is." He studied the photo, then me. "The truth usually hurts. You prepared for that?" I thought about Clara's guilty eyes in our kitchen. The lies hurt worse. Fair enough. It'll be $3,000 for comprehensive surveillance. 2 weeks minimum. Brandon was worth every dollar I'd scraped together from my separate account. Money saved from overtime shifts Clara didn't know about. His first report came within a week, professional and devastating. Tuesday, 4:47 p.m. Subject exited office building with Asian male, approximately 35 to 40 years old. Subjects entered parking garage together. Subject's vehicle remained in garage for 47 minutes. Male's vehicle was parked adjacent. The clinical language somehow made it worse. By the third week, Brandon had established a pattern that turned my suspicions into cold facts. Clara's client dinners were intimate affairs at restaurants I'd never heard of, the kind with dim lighting and wine lists longer than my truck's maintenance manual. Her late meetings corresponded with check-ins at the Marriott downtown. Those weekend conferences she attended, half of them never existed according to her company's actual event schedule that Brandon had somehow obtained. The man had a name, Brian Thompson, business development, her company's rising star. 38, divorced 2 years ago, drove a Tesla, had the kind of easy smile and manicured hands that belonged in Clara's polished world. Each evening, I'd come home to find Clara in our kitchen, preparing dinner or reviewing reports at the breakfast bar. She'd kiss my cheek, ask about my day, complain about her demanding boss and impossible deadlines, all while I knew she'd spent her lunch hour at Brian's apartment. One night, she studied me over her laptop. "You seem different lately. More quiet. Just tired. Peterson's been riding us hard about delivery times." She reached over, touched my hand. "You should take some time off. Maybe we could do a long weekend somewhere?" The irony was suffocating. I knew from Brandon's reports that she had her own weekend planned, with Brian, at a bed and breakfast in wine country. "That sounds nice," I managed. "When were you thinking?" "Oh, not for a few weeks. I have that Chicago conference coming up, remember?" I nodded. Right. The Strategic Planning Summit. Except Brandon had already confirmed no such summit existed. The worst revelation came when Brandon showed me photos from our anniversary weekend last year. I'd understood when Clara said she had to work late both nights. Her company was in merger talks, except she wasn't at the office. The timestamp showed her and Brian checking into the Rosewood Hotel 2 hours away at 7:23 p.m. on Friday, her wearing the red dress I'd bought her for Christmas. During this systematic destruction of my trust, I quietly built my case. The divorce attorney I consulted, Janet Morrison, was a shark in a pantsuit who'd handled my foreman's divorce 2 years prior. "With this evidence, you're in excellent position," Janet said, reviewing Brandon's reports. "The prenup you signed actually works in your favor here. Infidelity voids her claim to your pension and the house you inherited from your father. What about custody? Document everything. Keep a journal. The more evidence of deception and financial misconduct, the stronger your position." I documented everything. Bank statements showing charges at restaurants during her supposed late meetings at the office, credit card bills for hotels during her supposed business trips, even a receipt for lingerie from La Perla, $200 for something I'd never seen. The hardest part was helping Clara maintain her deception. When she told me about the upcoming conference in Chicago, I helped her pack, even suggested she take an extra day to relax. "You've been so stressed," I said, folding her clothes with steady hands. "Take some time for yourself." She hugged me then, pressing against me with what felt like genuine affection. "You're the best husband anyone could ask for. I don't deserve you." "No," I agreed quietly. "You don't." She pulled back, laughing. "So modest." Brandon's investigation was nearly complete. 1 more week of surveillance, he said, and I'd have everything needed for an airtight case. When he handed me that final envelope, he said something that chilled me. "This is worse than you thought it would be." Brandon's final report was a masterpiece of devastating thoroughness. 3 years, not 6 months, Not a momentary lapse in judgment, but 3 calculated years of systematic deception. The envelope contained everything: photographs, credit card records, hotel reservations, even text message logs that Brandon had obtained through legal channels I didn't want to know about. Brian Thompson had been part of Clara's life since the Denver conference 3 years ago, the one where she'd called me excitedly about a promotion opportunity that never materialized. They'd been together on every major business trip since, including the London conference where Clara claimed she had food poisoning and couldn't talk for 2 days. The photos showed them holding hands along the Thames, very much not poisoned. I spent a week planning my response. Janet Morrison and I mapped out every move, every contingency, every possible counterattack Clara might mount. "The key is simultaneous impact," Janet explained, leaning forward across her mahogany desk. "Personal and professional consequences delivered at once, leaving no room for damage control." "How do we ensure she can't spin this?" "Documentation beats rhetoric every time. We'll make sure the evidence speaks louder than any excuse she could craft." The divorce papers were works of art, clear, comprehensive, and utterly damning. Every piece of evidence was attached as an exhibit. The forensic accountant Janet recommended had found more than just personal expenses hidden in business charges. Clara had been using our joint credit card for her affair, technically making me a financial participant in my own betrayal. I chose the timing carefully. Clara's department had their weekly strategy meeting every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. The whole team would be there, including Brian, in their glass-walled conference room that everyone called the fishbowl. Maximum visibility, minimum privacy. The courier service assured me their processor was experienced in handling sensitive deliveries. "He's done this before," the dispatcher said. "Professional, discreet, but ensures proper receipt. Nobody can claim they didn't receive the documents." "Perfect. And the other deliveries?" "All synchronized for 2:45 p.m. as requested." Meanwhile, I prepared the other pieces. Her HR department would receive their copy simultaneously. An anonymous tip about inappropriate relationships and expense fraud, complete with documentation. Brian would get his package at the same time, though his would include something extra. Screenshots of Clara's texts to her girlfriend about how Brian was fun but not marriage material, and how she'd never leave Ethan for him. At home, I was the perfect husband. I fixed the leaky faucet Clara had been complaining about, made her favorite dinner on Tuesday night, even suggested we watch that British mystery series she loved. She curled against me on the couch, sighing contentedly. "You're being so sweet." "What's gotten into you?" "Just realized I haven't been appreciating you enough." She kissed my cheek. "Well, I like this version of you. Maybe we should fight more often if this is the makeup phase." "We haven't been fighting." "No, but we've been distant." "I'm glad we're reconnecting." I even helped with her presentation for Wednesday's meeting, reviewing her slides, suggesting improvements. She'd be at her best when the world came crashing down, confident, polished, completely unprepared. The children were my biggest concern. Sarah, 14, and Mike, 16, deserved better than to be blindsided. Without revealing specifics, I had careful conversations about how sometimes families change, how both parents would always love them regardless of what happened between adults. Mike confronted me directly Tuesday night, because he'd inherited my inability to dance around difficult topics. "Are you and Mom okay?" "We're working through some things." That's what Jeremy's dad said before his parents divorced. I set down my wrench. We'd been working on his car. "Whatever happens, you and Sarah are our priority. That won't change." "But something's happening." "Something's changing, yes. But you don't need to worry about it tonight." Wednesday morning arrived crisp and clear. Clara dressed in her power suit, charcoal gray with the pearl necklace I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. She reviewed her presentation one more time over breakfast, practicing her key points while I nodded and offered encouragement. "The quarterly projections are solid," I said. "You'll nail this." She beamed. "You really think so?" I think you'll get exactly what you deserve. She laughed. Such an odd way to phrase it, but I'll take the confidence boost. She kissed my cheek before leaving. Wish me luck. Good luck, Clara. I took the day off work, telling my supervisor I had a family emergency brewing. Not a lie, really. I sat in my truck in a parking lot across from Clara's office building, watching the clock creep toward 2:30. At 2 o'clock, I sent a single text to Clara. I know about Brian. It's over. Then I turned off my phone and waited. At 2:35, I saw movement in the fishbowl conference room, tiny figures visible even from my distance. Someone had stood up abruptly. Others were gathering around. The meeting was definitely disrupted. When that courier walked into her office building, Clara had no idea her world was about to explode in front of everyone who mattered to her career. The courier entered the fishbowl at 2:47 p.m. I watched from my truck as the tiny figures in the conference room shifted, heads turning toward the interruption. Even from across the street, I could identify Clara by her posture, that straight-backed confidence that was about to shatter. My phone, turned back on at 3 p.m., exploded with missed calls and texts. 23 calls from Clara, 4 from Brian, 1 from a number I didn't recognize, probably Clara's office phone. Her first voicemail, left at 2:52 p.m., was barely controlled panic. Ethan, what is this? Call me back immediately. This is insane. Call me. The second, at 2:58 p.m., had shifted to damage control. We need to talk about this privately, not like this. Please. By 3:15 p.m., anger had taken over. You bastard! You complete bastard! How dare you do this to me at work? I didn't respond. Instead, I drove home, made coffee, and sat at our kitchen table with Brandon's complete report spread before me. Evidence of 3 years of lies, organized chronologically, a roadmap of betrayal. Clara's car screeched into the driveway at 3:47 p.m. She must have left immediately after the courier, abandoning whatever remained of her presentation. She burst through the door like a hurricane, her face flushed, her perfect hair disheveled from running her hands through it. What have you done? Her voice shook with rage. I took a sip of coffee. I served you divorce papers. Seemed straightforward enough. At my office? In front of everyone? Her voice cracked between rage and desperation. You mean in front of Brian? He got his copy too. HR should be reading theirs about now. The color drained from her face. She sank into the chair across from me, her usual grace abandoned. It's not what it looks like. I slid a photo across the table, her and Brian at dinner last Tuesday when she'd claimed to be at a client meeting. Then explain what it is. She glanced at it, then pushed it back. That was a business dinner. Another photo, them entering the Marriott together. Business? We were reviewing proposals. The anniversary photos from the Rosewood Hotel. Her in the red dress I'd bought her, Brian's arm around her waist. What proposal was this? She stared at the photos, her mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. The great negotiator, speechless. Finally, she whispered, It didn't mean anything. It was just, I was lonely. You were always working, always tired. I was working overtime to pay for the life you wanted, while you were spending our money on hotel rooms with him. I showed her the credit card statements, each charge highlighted. Our joint card, Clara. You made me pay for your affair. I'll pay it back. With what? You think you'll keep that job after HR finishes investigating expense fraud? That's when the tears started. Clara, who hadn't cried when her father died, who prided herself on professional composure, broke down completely. Through her sobs, she pleaded, Please, think about the kids, our family. We can get counseling. I'll end it with Brian. I'll quit my job if that's what you want. You planned a vacation with him? Next month. on our anniversary weekend. Again. She flinched like I'd slapped her. 3 years, Clara. You chose him over us for 3 years. Every lie, every late meeting, every weekend conference that didn't exist, you chose him. She stood up, suddenly defensive. I chose you. I stayed with you. I never planned to leave. Because I provided stability while he provided excitement. I was your safety net while he was your adventure. Well, congratulations. Now you get to see how exciting life is without the net. She moved toward the living room, then spun back, anger replacing desperation. You think you're so clever? You think you've won? I'll fight this. I'll claim you were abusive, controlling. Go ahead. But first, you should know that Brian's married. She froze. What? No, he's divorced. He told me. Separated, not divorced. His wife got her own package today with everything, including the texts where you called Sharon from accounting a bitter cow who needs to get laid. Clara went completely silent. She understood now. This wasn't just divorce. This was scorched earth. You've destroyed everything. Her voice was barely a whisper. No, you destroyed everything. I just documented it. She sank onto the couch, staring at nothing. My job is over. They have 3 years of expense fraud, 3 years of using company resources for personal activities, 3 years of violating their ethics policy. The kids will hate me. The kids will know the truth. What they do with it is their choice. She looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in years. You planned all this, every detail. I had 3 weeks while you were busy with Brian. Plenty of time to think. When I told her about the HR report, she went completely silent. And that's when I knew she finally understood that this wasn't just a divorce. This was justice. The call from Clara's company came Thursday morning at 9:17 a.m. She was in the shower, probably trying to wash away yesterday's catastrophe. I answered her phone. This is Martin from HR. Ms. Patterson needs to report to Human Resources immediately upon arrival. I'll let her know, I said, already knowing how that meeting would end. Clara emerged from the bedroom in her best suit, full armor for corporate combat. Don't wait up. I'll be dealing with this mess you created all day. I shrugged. It's your mess, Clara. I just exposed it. By noon, she was home, carrying a banker's box of personal items. 15 years with the company ended in a morning. Her face was a mask of shock. She set the box down heavily. They had everything, every receipt, every hotel charge on the corporate card, every sick day that matched Brian's travel schedule. They knew about London, Denver, even the client dinner I expensed when I was actually... She stopped herself. With Brian. Yes, they knew. She collapsed onto the couch. He threw me under the bus, told them I pursued him, that he tried to end it multiple times, that I threatened his position if he didn't comply. You picked a real winner. His wife was there, in HR. They brought her in to verify timeline details. Clara's voice was hollow. She's pregnant. 6 months. The next days brought systematic destruction. Clara's company not only fired her, but marked her file for gross misconduct, the kind of scarlet letter that follows you in corporate circles. Her carefully cultivated network evaporated overnight. LinkedIn connections disappeared. Recruiters who'd courted her for years wouldn't return calls. Brian kept his job, barely. Transferred to the Seattle office, demoted to senior analyst. His wife, armed with the evidence I'd provided, filed for divorce immediately. He blocked Clara's number, pretended she'd never existed. The man she'd risked everything for became a ghost. Our kids found out despite our attempts at damage control. Mike overheard Clara crying on the phone to her sister, piecing together enough to confront her directly at dinner Sunday night. Were you cheating on Dad? Clara's silence was answer enough. Sarah's voice was small. For how long? Clara started. It's complicated. 3 years. The trips, the late meetings, the conferences. Most of them were lies. Mike stood up from the table, his chair scraping against the floor. All those times you missed my games for work? Clara reached for him. Mike, please. He pulled away. I hate you. Then walked to his room. He hasn't spoken to her since. Sarah lasted 2 more days before breaking. She'd found Clara's laptop open to apartment listings, studio apartments in the sketchy part of town, the only thing Clara could afford without a job. You're really leaving? Clara, still trying to spin reality, said, Dad's making me... Sarah interrupted. No, you left already. You've been leaving for years. Dad's just making it official. The divorce proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Clara's attorney, a public defender since she couldn't afford private counsel, advised her to accept my terms. The evidence was overwhelming, the prenup ironclad. I got primary custody, the house, my pension intact. Clara got $40,000 in savings and her car. She found a job eventually, assistant manager at a retail chain, making 1/3 of her previous salary. The woman who once presented to CEOs now handles customer complaints and schedules part-time workers. Moving day was yesterday. I watched her load boxes into a rented truck, her designer clothes looking absurd against the U-Haul's dirty interior. Brian had sent movers for his wife. Clara had only her sister, who glared at me like I was the villain in this story. Clara paused at the truck. Was it worth it? Destroying my life like this? You destroyed your own life. I just refused to let you destroy mine too. Her eyes filled with tears. I loved you. No, you loved having me. There's a difference. She climbed into the truck without another word. As it disappeared around the corner, I realized I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. 3 months have passed since Clara's U-Haul turned the corner. The house feels different now, lighter, like opening windows after a storm. Her absence isn't an empty space, it's room to breathe. Mike started joining me in the garage on weekends. We're rebuilding a 1972 Chevelle. His choice, not mine. Yesterday, he asked me to teach him how to check a car's fluids. I want to know real stuff, not just app notifications. We don't talk about his mother during these sessions, but sometimes I catch him glancing at the kitchen door, like he's expecting her to walk in with lemonade and false concern. Sarah's adjusting differently. She redecorated Clara's old home office, turning it into an art studio. The walls that once held Clara's achievement awards now display Sarah's paintings, violent abstracts that her therapist says are processing tools. Last week she asked, "Did you ever love Mom?" I loved who I thought she was, but that person might never have existed. She considered this. That's sad. Yes, it is. Clara lives 40 minutes away in a 2-bedroom apartment above a bakery. She gets the kids alternate weekends, though Mike often finds excuses not to go. Last Sunday was her birthday. Sarah went. Mike didn't. Sarah said they ordered Chinese takeout and watched Netflix. No Brian, no romance, just Clara alone with the consequences of her choices. She still sends emails sometimes, usually late at night when the wine hits. They range from accusatory to pleading, sometimes both in the same message. I don't respond anymore. Janet Morrison, my attorney, files them away in case we need them. The corporate world Clara loved so much has memory. She applied for 17 positions last month. I know because a friend in HR at one company told me. Her reputation precedes her now. The executive who expensed affair hotels, who got caught and fired for misconduct. She's radioactive in the circles that once celebrated her. Brian Thompson remarried last month, a woman from his Seattle office, according to LinkedIn. 24 years old, fresh from MBA school. Clara found out through Instagram. She called me crying that night, drunk and incoherent. "You ruined my only chance at happiness." I hung up and blocked her number. Work hasn't changed much for me. Same trucks, same routes, same problems to solve. But I come home to truth now. No more wondering where Clara really is. No more pretending not to notice lipstick shades I didn't recognize. No more lying awake beside someone who was thinking of someone else. The Chevelle runs now. Mike and I got it started last weekend, and the look on his face when that engine turned over, pure joy, untainted by pretense. We drove it around the block, windows down, classic rock on the restored radio. Mom ever ride in cars like this? Your mother preferred luxury. Leather seats, climate control, isolation from the road. He grinned. That's boring. Yes, it was. Some nights I wonder if I went too far. If destroying Clara's career along with our marriage was excessive, vindictive. Then I remember those 3 years of lies, the photos from our anniversary, the casual cruelty of making me finance my own betrayal. She lost everything. I kept what mattered most. The kids will heal. They'll learn to trust again, to love without constantly checking for deception. They'll remember that their father stood up for truth, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. And Clara? She'll wake up every morning in that small apartment, dress for a job she hates, and remember when she had everything. She'll know that she traded it all for 3 years of hotel rooms and whispered promises from a man who discarded her the moment she became inconvenient. That's not revenge. That's justice. And justice, I've learned, sleeps better than revenge ever could. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.